let's get it.
Hey, everybody. We're here for another wonderful session with Sharon Weaver and Wes Preston on event training and office hours and all of that goodness. And so we are I'm going to hand it over to y'all and get started. Do you want to drive the bus the rest of the way? Okay, and I'll do our code of conduct real quick. So digital code of conduct, just everyone, as usual, these are, we want to keep our principles around being inclusive and empowering everybody, and we don't want harassment, discrimination, etc. on these calls. So please raise your hands and be inclusive for each other, and we'll make sure we'll get all your questions answered, and we appreciate you being here. So good stuff. Cool.
All right, I think it gave it over to me now.
Okay.
It was just being slow.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, did that change?
Yeah. Yes, it did.
It's just three nice people trying not to step on each other's toes.
Yeah, Heather, you want to give a quick overview about the MGCI, and then we can switch over to...
Sure. MGCI is the initiative that brings you this training. We have... we feature event amplification, event production training, blogs, networking, technology, tools and best practices, resources, playbooks, and more for the Microsoft community. I just read you that slide. But basically, thanks. It's an initiative that we started a few years ago, coming out of COVID, to help folks learn how to be event producers, and also to support folks with templates and playbooks and guidance and training like this. So the MGCI continues to also support communitydays.org, which is a one-stop shop for Microsoft community events that anybody can post up to if they have an event longer than 4 hours, and that is something out in the world that is either free or paid. Currently, we don't support user group reoccurring monthly meetings, but that's something that we are looking into. So with that, I'll let you keep going. There you go.
I see people are already doing this, but definitely please make sure to introduce yourself in chat, who you are, where you're from, what events you work on, your LinkedIn. I see a lot of people posting LinkedIn connections. That's great. This is a great place for networking. And if you have events and you want to share like information about those events or links to those events, please put them in the chat so that everybody can learn about your event or potentially speak at your event or sponsor your event or attend your event. The more we know, the better we can participate. Wes, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Wes Preston. One of the things I was going to throw onto Heather's note there about MGCI is it's a bunch of event producers trying to help and make other event producers. So most or all of us have run events. So we're just trying to help other people do it and pass on our experience and all that fun stuff. So I am am running the Minnesota version of what used to be SharePoint Saturday and is now M365 Saturday. Part of the reason I'm catching up is because we actually launched last night. So trying to get all of those ducks in a row while trying to get all of these ducks in a row. So we will talk about that, but I'm based here in Minnesota in the middle of the U.S., and we'll leave it at that for now. If you have questions, we can chat. I'd love to chat. There you go.
No, it's great. I always love having you around. You have such great knowledge and have participated in such cool things that it's great to share that knowledge with other people. My name is Sharon Weaver. I am the founder and CEO of Smarter Consulting. I have been doing event organization as long as I can remember. My dad was a pastor, so I grew up like literally running events my whole life. And so I have run the Kansas City M365 user group for like, I think it was eight years 9 years now. I ran SharePoint Saturday Kansas City for 7 years. Then we converted it into what's now known as CollabCon. I also have run the first community days at sea, which hopefully another one will be coming in the near future for that. And in addition to that, I tend to help with a lot of other events now. So I've kind of grown up a little bit, and I tend to be on a lot of committees and organizing groups and things like that. I currently am living in Orlando, Florida, but let's be really honest, I'm never really home anyways. So I tend to be a little bit of a digital nomad and maybe kind of heading that way a little bit more and more every day. So you can absolutely connect with me. And I agree with Wes. I think a lot of it is just we have been doing this for so long that we just want to share that knowledge and experience with you guys so that you can be successful to run your own events and your own groups and then, kind of learn how to do things better in that vein and answer any questions. Heather, you want to, I don't know if you want to say anything about the Microsoft team. You guys are so fantastic for supporting and keeping us all moving forward and on track.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I'm Heather Cook, everybody. I'm Principal PM on the Microsoft Customer Advocacy Group, which lives inside of the Microsoft 365 engineering team under Jeff Teeper. Work with Carolina Gatima. She's the lead of our team. Many of you know her. She's also helps with the Phoenix events. I help with the Los Angeles events, and then I do a lot of event production for Microsoft when we sponsor events. And I've been doing that for about 24 years. So lots of experience doing all kinds of events and different things inside and outside of Microsoft. And Brian Hart is our technical lead, who I've also known for 24 years. So we work together quite a bit, and he does all the back end work on the tenant and a lot of the automations and things that you see. So that is your Microsoft team. Yeah.
We very much appreciate you. All right. So today's topic, we sat down and we tried to have presenters for this, and it kind of got, a little complex. And so we had a chat and we just said, we're just going to talk about these topics because these are everyday topics that every single event organizer is struggling with. And we basically listed, here's the ones that people struggle with. So I really this is going to be a little bit of a facilitated discussion. And what I did is I basically took many of potential roles and responsibilities that could be included in a committee. And it does not mean that these are exhaustive, and it does not mean that you can't have other ones. But I thought it would be a good enough seated conversation for us to talk about some of the different roles and responsibilities. And if we're missing any, please post them in chat, share your opinions. But I would love it if anybody wants to participate in this as we go forward. Number one, continue the chat. I see that's moving. It's fantastic. If you would like to participate in the discussion, please use the raise hand feature. And what this does for us is it lets you know that you're interested in speaking. It also gives us a cue so we can make sure that everybody's not talking and walking all over each other. But we would absolutely love your participation in this conversation. So the first one that I'm going to bring up, and once again, doesn't matter, is the committee lead. Yeah, Wes, did you have comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a couple of things in there too, especially for folks that are just starting out. This is not I have to fill all these roles in order to have an event. So these are things that we've seen across the years that we've been running these events, and they're a lot of what Sharon and I assume are going to present or we're going to talk about we're coming from the perspective of events that have been honed and polished over the years. So this isn't where you're going to start. You're going to start from finding people that have the same idea as you do of saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we run this event? And then you're probably going to do something like look at the organization, or what is it called? The organizer's checklist that people put together a couple of years ago and say, how can we tackle all this stuff? As we go through the slides, these are something where we've kind of refined them down, or this is Sharon's stuff, where she's refined it down into what's worked and what's not. But I guess what I want, I'm talking more than I want to. What I want to say is you don't have to have all of these roles. These are great goals to have, but do not be afraid to start an event and to start simple. And then you can build and make a more polished production over time. So that's what I wanted to get out there. Sorry, Sharon.
No, I think that's great feedback and great insight, because I do think a lot of times people think to run an event, to your point, I really do want to add to that, because I think sometimes people think to run an event they have to have an entire production team, or they have to have an entire event team, they have to have paid positions. And I can tell you that for years and years and years, we said we'd like to have a user group, and a handful of people went out, had some drinks, and we decided to have a user group, and 3 people showed up, right? And then we grew from there. And I think this is so great to think, like I said, or like Wes said, when I come up with these, you are absolutely right. This is 20, 25 years of I've been around the block, and I know that it's good for people to have roles and responsibilities. And so I will add, maybe a proviso is have as many roles and responsibilities as you can. Have people say, here's the role that I'm playing, but don't be so married to that role that you're not willing to kind of be flexible and do all the things. Because once again, this is not a job. This is volunteer, primarily community driven type stuff. And we all just need to kind of jump in where we're needed and do whatever needs to be done sometimes.
Yep.
Anything else, Wes? Before I walk
I'd
away?
say the other thing, and I give my friend Mark Rackley a hard time for trying to take too much work on. So that's the other message I like to deliver is spread the work out. You can certainly get away with maybe pulling off an event by yourself, but it's not going to be pretty, and you're not going to be happy about it after the fact. So please find friends, find coworkers, find peers. And spread the work out. It's going to end up being more than you anticipated if you're just starting out.
Yeah, we actually sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I call it muscling through. Like muscling through by yourself can be hard, really hard. And these things are hard enough as it is. There's a lot of detail. And so when you muscle through by yourself, and usually what you do is you wait till the last minute, and you're doing it late at night, and you're, and then it's not fun. That's the other thing. Committees are fun. Doing things with other people and having a collective. All of this is about belonging. Anyway, all of this community, doing these events. And so having that sense of, security in numbers, if you will, but also just don't muscle through by yourself. Truly, I've done it a million times. And sometimes I do it because I'm like, I'm going to do it myself. And, that works. But then, sometimes it doesn't. And you end up just without a lot of sleep, and you pay for it. Yeah. And it's way more fun doing it as a collective. So, yeah. Yeah.
That's a great point too, right? We're building community, and it's fun. If you find a group of peers that you enjoy doing these things with, this is a blast. So, I mean, take that with it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Heather, we, Wes and I, in preparation for this session, we actually had a conversation about what we wanted to talk about. And one of the things is I was saying, I feel like so many organizers struggle with having a committee and delegating roles and responsibilities and holding people accountable, and and then getting people who are going to show up and do what they say they're going to do. And also, and I'm going to say the thing, I'm a big fan of just like tearing the sheet off the elephant in the room. But then there's those people who show up and just don't get stuff done, right? And we feel bad because we're like, well, we want them to come to our party, but they're not bringing anything. So should they be here or should they not be here, right? And I think one of the things that I really do like to do is whenever I organize anything, I do like to say, who's going to take what parts, right? That's really important. Who's going to do which things? And so as we talk through some of these roles, once again, it does not need to be this formal, but the idea is who's going to be responsible for what. And I also want to prove a point. So we talked about this, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10 different roles that we're going to talk through. But the point that I want to make is if you're trying to do everything yourself. You're trying to be 10 different people at minimum. And so it's very, very difficult to play the role of 10 different people and be successful at it. It's far better to be you and be what you're good at and bring 9 other people into the party that are good at what they do. And now all of a sudden you can be successful. So if you come to me at any point and say, Sharon, how do you do what you do? How are you so successful? How have you exceeded these things? How have you, been able to pull these off? My answer is always going to be to you. Do you know how many people it takes to be me? More than one. Absolutely more than one. So don't ever think that I do all of this stuff by myself. It's always a group of people that are always successful in pulling this off, for sure. All right. So, and we can keep chatting. I think this is great. This is a great conversation. See, I knew if I just put something up on the slide, we'd have a conversation. Speaking of, the most important role, in my opinion, is somebody to be responsible for making sure things get done. And so I termed this, and you can call it whatever you want, but the committee lead, the event lead, producer, I don't know how there's all kinds of roles. Basically, at the end of the day, they're responsible for deciding what's the direction, the strategy, execution, making sure stuff happens, making sure you have a place to be, making sure, it's really like the buck stops here kind of person.
Yep. 100%. I mean, you can have a lead or co-lead. We tend to say lead now at Microsoft. We don't say owner for whatever reason, but we like to say lead. And so you can have a co if you want, but there needs to be a place where the buck stops for sure. Final decisions, overall strategy, that kind of thing. And it will most likely, there's always a lead anyway. There's usually one person that is the instigator, I guess, if you will, for an event. So yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
I think their heart needs to be in it. They need to have passion for it, because at the end of the day, whoever the lead is, in my opinion, 9 times out of 10, is the person, like you said, the instigator. It's the person who's really, their heart is in making this event. Maybe they're from that city. Maybe they have a passion for that topic. Maybe they just happen to be the one that, everybody kind of circles around. But I think whoever's doing it really has to have a heart for it, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, the lead is the person who probably puts the most amount of effort in. And they're the ones at the end of the day, when we talk about pulling the event instigator, yes, that's the role title. At the end of the day, they're the ones at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night that are making sure that things are signed and things are done and things are in and everybody's been called and, answering questions. And they're like the ones that, they're the ones that have the heart for it.
And end up doing certain things too, been there, done that. You're going to be the person, the lead is going to be the person who probably is going to pick up I say I have a very large catcher's mitt. Sometimes, I feel like if it doesn't get done, I end up doing it, as a lead a lot of the times, which is not, but that's the work, unfortunately. So that's why you have to have a committee. So you don't have to, you can have a smaller catcher's mitt, but I definitely think, the person who is the lead at the end of the day is where the buck stops, where, the little things that may not get done. They're the person that may end up making the cupcakes at midnight. So you just have to know that's part of the job. But I do, the instigator. It's usually somebody who's like, everybody's talking about, let's do an event. We should do this. We should do that. And you're like, all right, let's do it. No, let's really do it.
And then the work starts.
Yeah, and then the work starts for sure.
It's a great idea till the work starts.
Yeah. True. But
Wes, any feedback on this topic, on this role?
No, I'm just thinking about all the people dynamics that come into this and how that's really not what we're focused on, but I'm trying to figure out how to address that, because it comes into play both within your team and in all the other people you're going to be working with throughout the course of your event planning. So
well, let's call it for what it is, right? I'm going to say it out loud. I told you, like, I'm going to take the thing out of the grenade and just throw it. At the end of the day, here's my rule. Try really hard to only have one lead. And here's the reason why. It's not that it's really hard when you have multiple type A personality in the same room. And this is just something I feel like sometimes we just don't admit to ourselves, right? We call it strong personalities or whatever. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you have a passion for this, then it's not that you can't have other people to help you, but be very, very cautious of having multiple leads at the same time, because when you have multiple leads at the same time, then you have to have an agreement, right? You have to have a consensus, a way of coming to decisions, which formalizes things in a way that maybe you're not doing yet. And so I'm going to say it out loud, just be careful of too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Too many leads in an event can cause issues unless you have very clear ground rules and very good consensus for everybody making decisions. I'll just say it out loud, because why not?
I make that joke about the cooks in the kitchen with my family, but that's because our last name is Cook. So,
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. Yeah.
All right. So this is where now you're going to start being like, wait, Sharon, shouldn't the lead be doing this? And I'm going to tell you now, if the lead does everything, then they're going to be really tired and really crabby and not have very many events. So I really do like to have somebody, and I put this in here because if you're running a user group, then you want to have like a rolling program plan. If you're having a one-time event, then they need to do the entire program plan for that event. But no matter what they're doing, you want to have somebody who's responsible for like the content and the programming of whatever it is that you're doing. So what kind of topics should you be covering? Who's going to be presenting? How are they going to be managing that? Making sure that all the presentation material stuff is ready. Looking at past sessions to see how did those sessions work, either, month to month or quarter to quarter or event to event, however often you're running them. But the idea is really just having somebody that's responsible for planning and program management kind of overall.
Yeah, and you might get some input from kind of what are the common topics or current topics and what's hot. You might get some feedback from users on sessions that they want to see more that maybe you didn't cover. And one thing that we've found is we kind of coordinate this over, the call for speakers. We might say, hey, we're trying to focus on X, Y, and Z. But then we get a crap ton of content that people want to present, and we have to, weed it out and figure out how we want to do it. So we might go in planning to have, track X, Y, and Z, but we'll wait and see what our content looks like. And then we might, kind of iterate through that and say, you know what, we're going to skip this one, or we're going to have 2 rooms of this one, as we look at the content and kind of filter it down. So that's just another part of the feedback loop is in terms of the content part of this role.
Yeah, and this is at the program level, right? So this is making sure that there is content selected and that we have a pipeline of new content and that we know, everything's kind of being organized. And once again, you can compress this into a couple of people or you can expand it out, because the next role is if you want to get a little bit more granular to where people don't have to all do the exact same thing. You can also have somebody who is responsible for creating specific pieces of content for your event or your group or whatever. Because really, if they want to be really specific around what kind of materials you're showing, if you want to reuse things, and this could be everything from templates, guidelines, or even content materials, like if you as organizers tend to do, specific topics. But they're responsible for like working with speakers and people inside your group to look at the content that you already have and make sure that whatever you are using is, you can look at this as marketing, you can look at this as training materials, you can look at this as speaker content, but the idea is like, what kind of content do we have specifically, and how can we help our presenters or participants be better at having that content ready?
Yeah, and I don't know, with the speaker content development lead, is this the person that handles, say, like doing the call for content and comms around that, and maybe dealing with sessionize or run events or whatever people are using? Yeah.
Yeah, they could
I know
be.
the answer.
Yeah,
I know the answer, but I'm just asking. Right.
Yeah.
So someone who's potentially, one, understands the technology for narrative's sake, like how to put together what kind of narrative you want at your event, right? What are we talking about? What's the event gonna, does it have a theme? Does it have a through line that you want to bring? And then also the sort of the technical setting up of dealing with a call for content for speakers. So how long would that be? How many? And it's going even backwards from that. What's your venue? How many rooms do you have? How many sessions can you have? How long are those sessions? What does the skeleton look like of your event? Is it one day? Is it 2 rooms? Is it a keynote that breaks out into different things when you come together for lunch? Like, that's this role to me, working with the overall lead, is where you really set the true skeleton for what's going to happen, because you need to know that before you go out, obviously, and go do a call for speakers, right? You need to know you can do 25 sessions or 20 or 10 or whatever it is.
Or 4.
Yeah.
Or 4. Yeah. Yeah. Or, 2 big long ones or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And you might have somebody, so you might, if you think about going back to the event planning manager, like that person might be defining what those look like, and then this person might be filling it in, or this person might be defining what that looks like and filling it in, depending on who you have on your team and what they're trying to accomplish.
Yep. 100%.
All right. This is really the important one.
That's because you love that one.
They're all important. This is my favorite. Like if I was to pick a role out of all the things, this is my favorite one to do. But this is promotion engagement, right? So promotion engagement is like really truly marketing, and the whole idea is that this person. I left my MGCI stuff in there. See, this is actually real stuff that I copied and pasted in here. So, this person is really out there trying to promote everything out, right? We want people to know we exist. We want people to participate. We want people to come join us. And we work with our communication team to make sure that everybody knows who we are and what we're doing and what we're about, how they can participate. Partner with different groups, partner with different places, create promotion material. And then with each of these leads, this is where, we didn't really talk much about having people on each committee, but if you really get big and you get formal, you might have somebody who's responsible for promotion engagement. And then you have an entire group of people that are working to help that person then promote that out.
Yep.
And I'll throw out there too that I think this has changed over time, because I think when we first started stuff 10, 15 years ago, there was such a demand for a lot of this stuff where we didn't have to worry too much about promotion, because a lot of it was word of mouth. It was organic. It just happened, and we had people pouring in. And I think that's changed over time between the topics getting so broad and people wanting to know when their topics were there, and just work-life balance and all that stuff has changed over time. So we need to do, I think, more of this in order to get the word out that our events are out there. Obviously, it's being driven by people wanting it, so that's hopefully what's driving your event and your desire to run one. But this has really changed over time, and it's something that our group has not had a specific person to do this. And it's something where we probably need to do that, and that's something we're going to be adding on. One I've seen recently that did an awesome job with this type of stuff was the Miami event, and just being able to they formalized a lot of the stuff that they were doing. They worked at getting to know the local businesses. They went out of their way to kind of be part of the business community as a way to drive folks to their events. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, right? You say marketing and promotion and things, but there are a lot of different angles that you can take with this. Hopefully you're starting from, hey, we have a public demand for, hey, where do we get this information? Can someone create an event? Hopefully that's your starter. And then after that, you start moving into gears like this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you have you have to start with a venue and a date, right? Those are kind of the first, and that's really with this committee. Once you, got that. So it's like, when are we going to do it? Where are we going to do it? And then the how comes in, right? So it's like date, venue, money, really, sponsorship. Those are kind of the things. And then once you have all of that obviously settled out, the promotional piece of it. And I think never underestimate, the skills of a graphic designer as well, or someone who has those skills. And, I think there are more tools out there today than ever, obviously, with the dawn of the robots and AI, and Copilot and Designer and, other tools. Many people use Canva. There's, you blink and there's like 4 new things that can help you create, graphics and social media and that sort of thing. But it does help when someone has some background in understanding promotion. It's not just putting out a tweet. It's not just putting out one, LinkedIn post. It's building a list and, working with other people to try and, get the word out, because people consume, as we all know. Like, what's your favorite way to consume information? Like, are you a Twitter person? Are you a LinkedIn person? Do you like an email coming to your inbox? So there's all kinds of ways to get the word out to get people. And then using local lists of, say, students or your chamber of commerce, or, clicking into different organizations that already exist, right? Those are all part of this promotion and engagement thinking especially when you're trying to start an event. And yeah, Russ, location, for sure.
100%. Yeah. And a lot of this is assuming that we've already got the venue. We've already got some stuff going on. We already have an idea. And now we're just trying to pull it all together to get it going. But so this is something that I found to be super valuable, is having an event logistics lead. And it doesn't matter if you're virtual. It doesn't matter if you're in person. But really, it's having somebody that's responsible for the end-to-end logistics so that you don't have to think about it. This has become huge for me in a lot of the events that I participate in, because they're the ones that make sure registration is happening, any sort of, especially it's in this day and age with hybrid events and virtual events and cameras and laptops and Ethernet cables. And, our last event, the day before we went in to check everything and the power was out.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. And it's so it's the whole idea of making sure that the event is going to happen without a hitch. Everything's working the way it needs to be. You've got somebody handling speaker logistics and anything that's coming up with troubleshooting. Is somebody, coming in late, or is somebody going to switch roles, or whatever. And making sure that everything is just going to move forward smoothly. This can mean a lot of things.
I find this fascinating because I align different tasks with these titles. So it's just, nothing wrong or right about it. I'm kind of fascinated from the different perspectives. Right, when I hear event logistics, we had a person who found us a site, was the key communicator with the people at that site. He was the guy who verified rooms, made sure the rooms were working. But that's kind of where it ended. And then things like registration, completely different person. Getting signage up, completely different group of people. But I can very much see how these could all fall under the same umbrella. But it's interesting just because I think we're all going to find our way of making it work, right?
Well, and once again, if you've matured, this may be a lead over 4 or 5 different people that are all each managing different things. So maybe you have a registration person, you have an AV person, you have a speaker, like an on-site speaker person that's managing all those, and then you have a lead over those people too. And this is not the end all be all of anything, and I think each of you guys are probably going to do things differently. So I find it fascinating. It's really fun because I look at other people's committees too, and I'm like, ooh, how are you doing that? Like, what's that person doing? And oh, that's neat. That's a good idea. Why didn't I think about having somebody to do that?
And honestly, it comes back to the people and skills and interactions too, right? It might be something where you've got 2 people who like to do stuff together. you put them on the same team, and if there's stuff on that team that they both want to work on. So yeah,
Yes.
it's someone who's in charge of the venue and just and looks at tasks and says, oh yeah, I can take care of that too, and then all of a sudden that falls under their group, right? So it's all of this stuff is so fluid, but it comes down to the people and your interaction with them. So
Hopefully we'll inspire you about just some things that you're like, oh, I never thought about having somebody to do that, or I never thought about delegating that task out separately. Hopefully we'll inspire you with all of this, and we're not dictating how it should happen, but just giving you ideas of things that you can do.
Yep. We've got about 15 minutes left too. So
cool. This is one that I've thought about for a long time. So this is something that I feel like when you get to a certain maturity level, it's really good to have somebody who goes back to say, what did we do last time and how can we do it better? Or what have we been doing and how can we make improvements? But the idea with this, and this can be whatever title you want it to be, but this is really having somebody who's dedicated. The group isn't responsible for doing it all together. You have somebody who's dedicated to really finding out what the pulse of things are and how to continue to be better going forward.
Yeah, this is easily forgotten too, right? Because a lot of times we get to the end of the day and we've got everything cleaned up and maybe a day later after we've sent out emails and thank yous and things like that. But this is an easy one to forget that needs to happen, but it's so important to being able to continue to put on an event that people are interested in.
Yep.
Agreed. And some people love crunching numbers and doing analytics. So, but this is also a person that person may be the one who actually puts together a survey, right? Mm-hmm. So like using Microsoft Forms or whatever your form, or survey tool would be, but that's like satisfaction, right? So like asking people, did they like the event? Were they satisfied with the event? And then also if you potentially do speaker evaluations as well, that person could be in charge of those things too. So.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what the number one feedback will be about. Food.
Have good food, guys. We always
if it's good, if it's bad, if it was late, if it was cold, if it was hard to find, if it was slippery.
And also the temperature. The food and the temperature. Like those are the top two things. Yes. Doesn't matter how great the content is. Was there good food and was it not too hot and not too cold?
Were the rooms comfortable?
It's the Goldilocks effect.
Yes. So these last couple, in my opinion, are kind of the most critical. The volunteer and outreach coordinator, and the idea is really, this is a recruiter, right? Who is responsible for making sure that you have people to help you and that those people are identified, managed, and being taken care of. Because at the end of the day, lots of people will say they want to do things. Sometimes they don't know if they're in the right role. Sometimes they come and go. Sometimes they need help. Sometimes they need support. But if you have somebody that's really kind of dedicated to making sure that those volunteers are being managed and nurtured and taken care of, I feel like you have a better group of volunteers.
Yes.
Any comments on those before I switch? I know we're kind of getting
it's also good to have a coordinator as a single point of contact for leadership. So you can just say, hey, we've got, during the day, you identify something that needs to be done. You don't have to go find the person person, you find the person. And their job is to know where folks are and who's the best one to do it.
So partnerships and sponsorship leads. I said optional because, sometimes this is hard to kind of go outside of your own event or your own group. But honestly, like when you mature, having somebody that can be responsible for going out and connecting with other, sponsors, partners. And this isn't just sponsorship because that's separate. This is like really being like, how can we partner with other events or other groups or like you said, Wes, with the Miami event, like other businesses or other education institutions, like how can we foster those relationships and turn those into something that's beneficial for us? Most of the time this comes when you've like done it a few years and then you're like establishing yourself and you're trying to kind of cross-pollinate a little bit.
Yep. Trying to build the depth and the breadth that you'd want to.
Yep. And then this is the most critical role there is, which is why it's at the end, because I figured this would have the most talk, is the finance and operations lead. So typically this is the person that's responsible for making sure that the money exists, managing it in some way. This can get, a lot of times finance and operations can get broken up into a subcommittee because there's going to have to be people who manage logistical agreements and contracts and, look for how can we save money. Because at the end of the day, events are not cheap. And it's always good to have somebody who's very a good steward to help manage all of this and make sure you're getting the most with what you've got. And I think the number one question I get asked is, well, how do you manage the money? And you always have to have somebody to manage the money through. You can either have a nonprofit that either your group can be a nonprofit, it can work directly with a nonprofit, or you can work with a business as long as you have somebody who is assisting you that has an entity that is capable of managing money and procuring and managing insurance and contracts in some way, then, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because you really need to be thoughtful about that, but it's always good to have some sort of a entity that you're either working with or set up as.
And I've got mine set up in a way where I do all the talking to sponsors. And when I get to a certain point in that conversation where they've said, yep, we'd like to sponsor, I hand them off to the money guy because he takes care of it, and it's a great line in the sand for me, so that I don't have to be that guy. Also, so it's for us, it's worked well because it's just a nice way for me to say, all right, once we get to this point, I'm going to have you work with this person, and they'll take care of all the invoicing and blah blah blah. And that's a great line to draw, so that you can stick with what can we do in this event to make it better for you. How be more concerned about their needs and developing those needs over time and developing ways to support them over time and not focus on the money, because there's going to be organizations that will focus on the money. And if you can separate those things, I found that it tends to lead to better conversations.
Yep, I agree. I 100% agree. All right. So we made it through all of that. I know we've got, a little bit of information left here in the deck for you guys, kind of going forward, but I didn't know if there was any questions or conversation around having a committee, different committee roles.
There's a lot of experienced event producers on this call I can see in the chat. So yeah, any best practices from those out there who've been doing this that you might want to share with other folks, things that resonated? Let's come off mute, raise hands, however you want to do it, y'all. Anyone?
Daniel says, don't overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tom, go ahead.
Oh, sure. So hi. So yeah, real quick. I want to get the slides, number one. And number two, we have some things that we have slightly different stuff, similar roles, but I was, did you have anything there? Oh yeah, you do have for outreach. Now, like these things are different. Like these are the people that are help planning, but then on the day of event, do they take roles or do they shift and kind of morph into something else at that point? Or is this just like upfront planning?
That's a great question.
For mine, switch into day of roles. So what we do is those leads are then responsible for planning their day of, whoever's going to manage that. So like the logistics person is going to be responsible for making sure that all the prep is needed. And then the day of, they're responsible for making sure that somebody's assigned to that and that they're there to support them and things like that. Kind of converts over.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a good plan to, when you're looking at those roles and responsibilities, to kind of identify here are the things that you're likely going to be doing as we ramp up. Here's the stuff you're doing day of. Here are the things you're responsible for afterwards. I think that just keeps it clear. In fact, a lot of the roles that we end up having are they have almost nothing to do with the prep. They're their day of, and they're doing X, Y, and Z. But then for me and the leadership on our team, we have very few specific things to do on the day of, because we're set aside for whatever happens and how to deal with it. Because if I have responsibilities and I have to respond to things, that doesn't work. So that's just another thought you can put in there, and that probably works well for a lot of the coordinators. So again, I think just thinking about it from those three different phases probably helps with expectations.
I think Daniel's got his hand up.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I wanted to say what you're just saying, Wes, very much resonates. And the way we have been working has been, there is someone who's responsible. Okay, we're all kind of responsible people, but like the person that's responsible for attacking problems, because there will always be problems day of. There's always going to be something that comes up, and there needs to be someone who's available to attack those problems. And that person should not be the main person in charge of registration. That should not be the main person in charge of whatever. It needs to be someone who is not tied down, that can attack the problems, be a floater, but also, be the person who walks in the room and reminds speakers, hey, you're over time. Things that just pop up through the day that really need to be done, but won't be done if everybody is tied down. And I just think that's very, very important. And it's also really important to understand that just because you have a role doesn't necessarily mean that you are in that box of that's the only thing you do. We typically have, of those roles, we don't have just one, right? We have multiples. So it is a crazy day or 2 days or however long it is of lots of work and lots of role switching and everything. And just remembering to be kind to each other, because we're all stressed during that time. And sometimes you step on a toe or 10, and you just have to be kind to each other, because hopefully you're going to do this again, and you don't want to, have any kind of hard feelings or whatever. So that's just my brain dump there. Thanks for listening.
All great points. I want to highlight two things. One, a lot of us come from the speaking ranks, and that also is something to consider when you're running an event, is whether or not you want to be a presenter, because that is a very different role. And it's, one, if you're presenting, you're going to disappear for an hour, right? Because you're presenting, and many of us still do prep up until way too late. So, maybe separating those is one thought. The other thing I want to throw out there, and we don't have time to get into detail or too deep into it, but if you can identify someone on your leadership team that's good at dealing with conflict and having that person available, just as the go-to, right? So that everyone knows if there's something wrong, let's go to this person, because that person can deal with it or has those skills. It's good to run into that, because the larger your event gets, the more people you're going to have there, and the higher the odds you're going to have to deal with something where it might be silly, it might not, but where someone gets upset. And if you have someone who can deal with that, you're better off. So.
Or at least know the path to how you're going to deal with it, as a committee,
yes.
As well. Like, just have a discussion about conflict resolution is really important. Yeah.
That's great prep. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Cool.
Those are all great points.
Yeah. We've got about a minute left. Couple things just to point out. This again is our community social. If you have an event that you would like to have some posting on our community LinkedIn or our MSFT adoption Twitter handle. You can fill out the form. The service level agreement is 3 business days. I am working on these for us now. So if you want to use that form, get them in. It's open to folks as long as it's a Microsoft event, and it's not a sales kind of thing. But one of our community events, put them up there, and we get those up. Happy to do that. And then love feedback on these meetings. Always happy to get your feedback. I can also put that link in the chat. But definitely want to hear how awesome Sharon and Wes are, of course, which is great. And then let's see.
The next one that's coming up is speaker selection.
Yep. And I'm about to
click. This is so timely.
I know.
This is going to match right with my event as we plan it along. This is perfect.
Did you do that on purpose?
I feel like somehow these dates got a little screwy, so we might have to go back and look at those. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for coming. Love to see you guys next time. If you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, have a fantastic afternoon.
Let us know if you like this. Yeah. If you have questions, follow up on LinkedIn or wherever you can reach us. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, team. Appreciate it. So bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you. We'll see you next month. Cool.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.